Rise and join us in the pledge of the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, to get things started, I would like to make a motion to appoint Lisa Trescott as acting secretary for the regular meeting tonight due to leave Mr. Stoddard's absence. Second? Great. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great. Okay, we have an acting secretary for tonight. Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome. Roll call is coming momentarily.
Great.
Thank you. No. Okay. Mrs. Barnes. Mr. Hanspike.
Here.
Mr. Hanselman. Mr. Stoddard. Mr. Tremontana.
Here.
Ms. Truscott, I'm here, and Mr. Weaver.
Here.
And Lucas,
Here.
I will mark you here as well.
Great.
Thank you.
You have an agenda. Motion to accept the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Support. Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we have a few presentations today. Do you want to do some introductions, or do you?
So we have Scott Kenishnik here, who just wanted to introduce himself. He is our incoming superintendent at CC RESA. So congratulations on that. And I think he just had a few words he wanted to say. He's hitting 2 board meetings in the county tonight. So go ahead and take the floor.
Oh, thanks, Scott.
Thanks. Thanks for having me, allowing me to share a little bit about myself as we begin to work together both as a board and as the community as well. So I appreciate being here. A little bit about my professional past, what kind of led me here. I'm a Chippewa through and through, bachelor's, master's, and doctorate for fire and chips. And started teaching on the southwest side of Grand Rapids in the 90s in Granville. Right before that all exploded, if you're familiar with them all in that area. So I was there for 3 years and jumped right into administration moved to Portland as an assistant principal and stayed there for about 4 years, right on 96. So competed against DeWitt at the time. They were in the same league, and so familiar with DeWitt certainly back to my time in Portland. Went to Fowler as the high school principal, which is where I was born and raised, in 2000. And so I served in that role for about 1.5 years, and then became their superintendent, where I stayed for 6 years. So I was a superintendent within the county. And during my time here as a local superintendent, I was fortunate enough to be part of the team that passed the career tech ed millage. We didn't have one prior to that, as well as a special ed had the override. And so served 6 years in a sense locally here within Clinton County. Transitioned to Montcalm ISD. Montcalm ISD is north and west of here. Small, poor, and rural, but I loved my time there because nobody had money. So we were forced to work together, and we partnered with everybody. We partnered with the community college there, the state police, the county administration. We just had very, very strong partnerships, and so I was there for 8 years, and then transitioned to Ingham ISD, Ingham County. Same role, just a larger, more urban and suburban ISD, and so it was at Ingham from 2015 to 2018. And at the time, our state superintendent was a gentleman named Brian Whiston, and Brian called and was wondered if I would be interested in coming to the department, to MDE. And so I interviewed, secured the position, and then unfortunately, if you know Brian or know of Brian, he passed away of cancer before I actually got to work with him. And so I've been at the Michigan Department of Education for the last 5 years, serving as a deputy superintendent, and I work with 3 different offices. The Office of Special Education, so we work with all of the local school districts in 56 ISDs, about 200,000 kids with IEPs. I also work with the Office of Career and Technical Education as well. And then the Office of Great Start, which in Michigan is all things early childhood. So those are the programs that are under my purview at the department. So I'm excited to come back here and get back to more of a regional level to see children again and to see staff members. Part of the reason for the excitement is I am a Clinton County native. I spent almost all my life here, except for the 3 years when I was out in Granville teaching. And so we lived in Fowler. I was born and raised there. My wife was born and raised there. My parents, her parents, our entire family is in Clinton County. And so when the position became open, we were very excited about that particular opportunity. Chance to kind of come back and to give back. We have 5 children. Our oldest 4 are 24, 23, 20, and 18. They all have taken CTE programs through RESA. 3 of the 4 took early childhood. And our third daughter took business marketing communications right here in DeWitt at your high school. And so big supporter of CTE. Our fourth child, our son, Cooper, is 18 and Cooper has autism. And so he's received 15 years worth of support from Clinton Risa as well. And so when you're a consumer of the services that you are eventually going to provide, it's a pretty interesting perspective. And he's received outstanding services through Risa. And then we have Annie, who is going to be 11, and she's just kind of a cool 11-year-old. So we go from 24 down to 11. So looking forward to actually working and being in the county. While or throughout the process of my professional career, have been active in a lot of different initiatives. With Cooper's autism, was very active in the autism insurance reform back in 2012. Prior to that, insurance companies did not have to cover therapies for children with autism. So worked very hard with the Lieutenant Governor Brian Calla and another group of parents to get that legislation passed, and have worked on a lot of different policy issues actually with Brian over the years, trying to do good things for kids and families. And then Lisa and I just talked. We had crossed paths and back when she was at Sensei in the insurance industry, so familiar with a couple of you. On a personal note as well, my wife and I run a nonprofit for children with disabilities, actually children and adults with disabilities, called No More Sidelines. What we do is, prior to COVID, we would partner with a local high school team or a club to provide fully integrated either athletic activities or community-based activities. So if you're a Facebooker, you can go to No More Sidelines of Central Michigan. There are a couple different chapters, and you can keep track of what we do. So prior to COVID, we did monthly events. We, again, partnered with your students. We partnered with your men's and women's golf team, and we would go to the Putt-Putt Place on 27. We would market to our kids with disabilities, and they would come, and they all have their own jerseys, so they would put their jerseys on, and we would pair them up with your kids, your golfers, and they would golf together. And so that's kind of what we did with those activities. So with DeWitt, we did golf. We also put on a play with your drama kids. We partnered with your drama program. Your kids came in and coached our kids with disabilities, and then we put on a play for them and their families. And so we do that. We don't do it monthly anymore because of COVID. We're down to quarterly, but we want to try to get back into that, providing those monthly events for those children and actually adults with disabilities is our fastest growing segment or population with No More Sidelines, because there just aren't a lot of opportunities for those types of interactions. So look forward to working again with you as a board in your community. You will see me when I was in Montcalm, when I was in Ingham. I'll be out at least once a year to do some type of presentation for the board. I think that's important, that there's that give and take of information back and forth. It would most likely at least be during budget season, because obviously you have to provide approval of our general fund budget. But I also like to maybe get out in the fall as well, and if there's a topic of the board that they're interested in learning more about from a recent perspective, we can do some staff levels like that, share that information as well. So I will be, not this budget season, because I don't start till July 1st, but you will be seeing me after the 1st of July. So appreciate the opportunity. Nice to meet you.
Welcome. Look forward to working with you.
Great, thank you. And I'm going to stay for a bit, but again, I'm heading to St. John's at 7, so I'll stay for a bit. I'm interested in learning about your 3rd grade math.
Fantastic. Welcome. Good to have you.
Thank you.
All right, next presentation on the agenda is Scott Elementary, 3rd grade targeted math instruction.
Good evening. So, Linda Reha asked Monique and I, this is Monique Serrati, Sarah Cochran, we're both teachers at Scott School, and for the last, 10 years? We've been working on math together. We've been like the leaders in the building for math for 3rd grade. So over those years, we've made several changes and additions to the way that we teach math, and you saw the, oh, I'm frozen, that's why. One moment. Okay. Oh, I have to go back. I am so sorry. Okay, so this is the slide that you saw some of this data from the last meeting. But you'll notice 3rd grade in both MSTEP and NWEA and WVA, we're well above even our expectations, I think, for last year, both within the district and outside of the district comparative to other local schools. And so kind of we just sat down and we're like, okay, so how did this happen?
It
Because
was
it was
surprising to figure out why we had that much of a change, because especially against some of the other districts, we had never been the highest in the area, for sure.
Yeah, certainly not that high. So we were very excited about the results, so we kind of just looked at it and decided, you know, how did this happen? What changes do we think we made that impact? So there were really 4 areas. One of the things that Monique and I worked with, and some second grade teachers as well, gosh, it's been probably 5 years now, but we attended a training with some MSU professors. Dr. Mary Bauk was one of them, and it was titled High Quality Math Instruction. So we went probably, 4 times throughout the year?
For a couple years.
For 2 years in a row. And one of the things that she helped us with, I'll go on to that next one,
High quality, yeah.
is to create high quality tasks that are not just like fill in the blank situations.
To extend thinking beyond the basic level and make kids think outside the box, and to work on strategies rather than just basic memorization of math.
Right. Yeah, so the other thing we did is we, with her help, we eliminated so we use a program called Engage New York, and there's a lot of repetition. And then the next lesson will be just slightly different from the one before. And so you could really put those together and save space and time for some of these high quality assignments and tasks. And so we did that, we took the
For
entire
every module, so we
Yeah.
added in a task at the beginning or mid part of the module, rather than, I took out some of the redundant tasks and very low level tasks to make it more of a thinking skill and a cooperative group activity where they're working together and challenging each other and their math thinking.
Yeah, so one of the things she had us do was look at tasks and say, is this a novice? Is this not a lot of thinking? Is it an apprentice task, which would require more open-ended type questions, or is it an expert task? And when we assessed our program, it was largely, I want to say 95% of it would really fit within the novice category, so we took time to ramp it up. Yeah, to ramp it up. And so that was one of the things we think of the 4, of our 4, that was probably one of the things that we really think impacted our test scores. And then the next one is Engage New York has assessments included in their programming, but we really thought, let's try to get it at least a little bit away from exactly how they were taught it. So we utilized a program called Illuminate Education, and it has warehouses of assessments. And they can assess the same thing, but in a way that's just enough different so that when they see it on an assessment like MSTEP or NWBA, they've gotten an opportunity to see it in just a little bit of a different setting.
And the test format is more similar to NWEA and MSTEP in their questioning compared to what the mid-modules and the end of modules in our other program, where it's very similar to their daily exit ticket, and the responses are in the same wording, same format all the time. So they weren't seeing test questions that were in the format that you'd see in MSTEP or NWEA.
And the other thing is these are online, they're computerized tests, where the assessments that we get from Engage New York are paper pencil. So they really, at 3rd grade, they really just need to practice taking a test on a laptop or a Chromebook rather than on paper. There's a weird disconnect between what work is when it comes to working.
And the disconnect that we've seen over the years is that they think because they're on the computer, they don't have to do any of the work they normally would do on paper, pencil, or a whiteboard. And so through this process, we realize that we have to have them work on whiteboards and paper, pencil, then enter your scores, because if not, there's a lot of guessing.
Right, there's 4 choices, why wouldn't you just choose one of the 4? So we feel like that was another one that was huge. I think made a really big impact on their ability to take a formal assessment on a Chromebook, was switching to assessments that throughout the year are online on a computer. And then the third one is something that we started probably at least 5 years ago, and this again goes back to Mary Bauk and our work with her. And it's the notion of a number talk. So what a number talk is basically a short daily exercise that aims at building conceptual knowledge with numbers, being able to manipulate numbers in your head And we do this 3 to 5 times a week. It takes between 5 and 15 minutes. So I might say, what is 11 plus 17? No pencils, no whiteboards, just figure it out. And then we talk about strategies. How did you add 11 plus 17? Did you break the 11 into 1 and 10? Did you add up 11, 12, 13, 14? Did you add one at a time? How did you decide to break that up and get your answer? And then we talk about all the different strategies and ways that you can come up with the same answer. And so it just gives them an opportunity to use numbers in a different way. And I talk about, I'm sure you do too, when you're taking an actual test, go ahead and double check it. It's okay to do your number talk idea, but also use paper pencil. And so that's just a strategy. It's a quick morning, sometimes morning, beginning of math lesson.
I do this in my warm up for math, but I mean, it's super fast. It's a great way to see how kids think about math and to compose and decompose numbers and to allow them to think outside the box. Way different than any of us would have done math in school, for sure.
Yeah, these are the conversations we had as kids, for sure. And then the last thing that we kind of attribute to our success to is a program called IXL. And we use it in really 2 different ways. The first way is they have what they call a diagnostic arena. And kids go in and they answer questions, and it assesses where they are in, 5 different categories of math.
And it gives them their just right level, basically, so that you're working where you need to be rather than where the regular 3rd grader would be working. So
Right.
for advanced kids or for kids who are behind, either way.
Yeah, I mean, I had a kid last year. He was getting exponents in 3rd grade that even I, needed to take a minute and remember. And then students who are still working on one-to-one correspondence, their questions are going to be one-to-one correspondence. And then the other, so this again mirrors assessments that they're taking, these more high-stakes assessments, because they're doing it on the computer, they're working out the math, and then finding their answer. And then the other way I use it is you can just assign specific things. For instance, we're in fractions right now, so I assigned the fraction assignment. So you can really, it's adaptive in many different ways. But really the biggest thing we noticed is the opportunity to take assessments on a computer but do the work on paper. I really feel like made the biggest difference to our scores too.
The slide was one more. Another thing about Illuminate that we've added in were performance tasks. We added 3 performance tasks per year, and I feel like it's also a huge way for kids to learn how to do a performance task on the M-STEP. It allows us to work with the kids and teach them how to answer questions, for them to work in partners and teams, and then to answer questions. Because when it comes time for the testing season, M-STEP, we have to read the directions as is as a teacher. And we cannot answer questions during that setting. So kids will want you to, well, I don't know what this means. I don't know how to do this. And using the performance task as a teaching tool rather than an assessment has, I think, also helped kids to understand that how to work through a problem that has multiple parts on a test, when you have to sometimes type in word answers, sometimes equations. It's multiple things you have to do for one problem.
So yeah, that's what we really attribute the success to, really those 4 things. And we could not be happier with those scores. So there you have it. Do you have any questions?
I have one. So looking at some of these scores, it looks like 3rd grade is doing, better than anybody, or maybe right up there. Have you tried sharing this with other grade levels? Can it work in other grade levels? I mean, do you share your success? How does that work?
We have a math committee meeting coming up. It was canceled for a snow day. So we definitely we're meeting with Courtney soon.
When we worked prior to COVID, when we worked with Allison Rogers from CC RISA, she actually helped us move the assessments that we use now so that they matched and mirrored our modules. And she is very willing to come from, and I'm not sure if she has the same job now, but she will come in and she will actually work with your grade level we spent like 2 whole days revamping and moving. The assessments are pre-made, but we move them so that they match to our units. And so at those committee meetings, which we haven't had basically prior to COVID, it's kind of everything kind of stopped. But before that, we were working as grade level teams. And then, so we work with second grade, and then we overlap into fourth grade, and yeah. I know our meeting, I think, we get, but it's I believe it's K-8, maybe K-5, where we'll meet math leaders across the entire elementary. So we'll certainly be sharing our thoughts. Anything else?
Any other questions? Okay.
So how long have you been implementing these 4 things?
We've been doing number talks for probably 6 or 8 years. Yeah, IXL's been around in our district for at least 10 years.
Okay.
And the performance task we created prior to COVID, so I'm trying to think what year it was. Was it 2 years before COVID, or was it?
Maybe a year. Probably the Illuminate assessments, we probably switched over from our module paper pencil to the Illuminate, I would say probably 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay.
So, it took some time.
And it's actually taken, even at the grade level, to get everyone on board to do a task and to do everything on the computer.
Right, it's a learning curve.
It's a learning
for the adults
curve.
and the kids, I'd say.
Yeah.
To transition from.
We started,
Used to do
we
it.
piloted together first, and then other teachers came on board, and now everyone in third grade, for at least a couple of years, everybody is working through all the different online tasks and activities, and the performance tasks that we do within our modules.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. Okay, that concludes our presentations for tonight. We will move on to the student report. Lucas.
Hello. Starting off with a more miscellaneous item, there will be mock interviews for seniors held on Wednesday, March 16th to teach seniors more or less just the interview process. Then auditions for next year's Chamber of Choir will be held on both March 20th and March 21st. Then on March 9th, there was a concert held for the high school symphonic jazz concert band, as well as the 8th grade concert band. Then on March 7th, the DHS choir traveled to Saginaw Valley State University to compete in an annual choir festival. Chamber choir and advanced treble received Division I ratings and had the highest score of the festival, tied with H.H. Dow High School with a score of 117 out of 120. The high school symphonic band also attended a similar festival on March 11th, receiving straight ones on all of it. Then the students will start their final exams on March 22nd and March 23rd, and that will bring the end of 9-week 3, and the 9-week 4 will begin on April 3rd. Beginning with athletics, the girls varsity basketball team made it to the regional finals after beating Kalamazoo Central High School 43-25. Then on March 9th, the girls lost the regional championship to Olds 52-36, and this brings their season to a close. Boys varsity basketball on March 8th. Their season also came to an end after losing to East Lansing High School 43-48. The boys swim and dive team won their league championship meet and were pronounced as conference champs. Over the weekend, they also competed in a statewide meet against Calvin University with 21 individual and team qualifying times. A couple of weeks ago, the boys and girls wrestling teams to compete in a statewide meet at Ford Field. For the girls, Jamie Cook took second place, Diane Hillard took fourth, and Ava Byers was named the best senior in her weight class. For the boys, Caden LaFond placed fifth, and Trendon Bayshore placed third. The following spring sports are also having all of their tryouts for today. Baseball, softball, boys and girls lacrosse, girls soccer, girls tennis, and then boys and girls track and field. For clubs and extracurriculars, the DeWitt student government received the DeWitt High School received 2 awards at MASC, MAHS States Conference, those being the Award of Excellence and Star School Award. The student government is also hosting a March Madness seminar competition this month. Each seminar will receive and fill out a bracket. Whichever seminar has the most accurate bracket at the end of the tournament will win a prize. And finally, with Business Professional America, on March 10th and March 11th, they went to their own state conference, and here they would go to leadership seminars and network to develop connections with business professionals across.
Thank you, Lucas. Any questions for Lucas?
Well, I don't know if you're involved in student government, but the Award of Excellence and the Star School Award, do you know anything about what those represent?
So it's just like accomplishments that we have made over this current school year. We filled out applications to receive those awards, and then they are like distributed over at the conference. I don't know exactly what was put into like the applications to receive them, but
That's great.
I have to, I do a letter of recommendation.
Thank you, Lucas, very thorough, we appreciate the efforts. Okay, moving on to public communication for items found on the agenda. It is the practice of the Board of Education to permit persons in the audience to make statements concerning agenda items at this time. Please complete the public comment form and return to the board desk if you wish to speak or prefer to express a written comment. Public comment shall be limited to 3 minutes, and no participant may speak more than once.
There is nothing in the
Nothing.
basket at this time.
Okay, we will close public comment for items on the agenda and move on to the consent agenda. It is a recommendation by Superintendent Dr. Shauna Spicker that the Board of Education approve, adopt, accept the following items for immediate implementation and appropriate action as presented. The approval of minutes from the regular meeting of February 13th, 2023, Curriculum and Improvement Committee meeting from March 8th, 2023, Treasurer's report and bills confirmation for payment for the month of February 23. Treasurer has reviewed the checks, ACH debits, and the purchase card for the month of February. And then overnight out-of-town trips for the DeWitt High School Quiz Bowl team to Atlanta, Georgia, May 26th through 28th, 2023. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved and supported. Any discussion?
I would just like to congratulate the quiz bowl team for making it to nationals. It's really
Yes.
exciting.
Awesome. All right, any other further comment or questions? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. On to action items now. There's a recommendation from Superintendent Shauna Pickard and Assistant Superintendent Rob Spagnola that the DeWitt Public Schools Board of Education approve the resolution authorizing teacher assignments, delegation of the sale, and other matters relating thereto as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support?
Moved and supported. Any discussion? Shauna, Rob, I know we have guests here as well.
Yeah, Frederick Truen is here as well, if there's any questions on anything within the resolution. But this is series 2 of 3 series that will be issued as part of the bond that was approved in November of 21.
Questions?
I will say just a few words too about this resolution. You've seen me a couple of times. It's usually in the context, well, it's always in the context of selling these bonds. And it's usually on the back end of the transaction after we have pricing results. This time is a little bit different. This is the resolution that happens before we do pricing. And this resolution is appointing an underwriter being the investment bank that's going to buy your bonds. Now in Michigan, there's 2 ways that schools can sell bonds. One of them is through what's called a competitive sale, where you do essentially an RFP process and award the bonds, you sell the bonds then to the underwriter that produces the lowest true interest cost. The method that this resolution is authorizing is what's called a negotiated sale, which was recommended by PFM, your financial advisor. And under a negotiated sale, we pick the underwriter in advance, and then your financial advisor essentially dickers a deal with the underwriter and negotiates with them. And the kind of critical piece of this resolution is in paragraph 16, because it's delegating authority to the administration to sign a bond purchase agreement if the pricing results are favorable as recommended by your financial advisor. But there's certain parameters that the board has to approve. So for example, the true interest rate on the bonds can't exceed 6%. What's called the underwriter spread or underwriter discount, how much that underwriter is getting paid, can't exceed 0.5% of the par amount of the bonds. And then of course, probably most critically, you have to get the written recommendation of your financial advisor to proceed with the transaction in order for the administration to even have the authority under this resolution to sign a bond purchase agreement. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. And otherwise, we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Rob, can you do us a good deal?
Yeah. Have a good team. Have a good team. Any other questions? All right, it's been moved and supported. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you for coming forward.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Okay, next, it is the recommendation by Superintendent Dr. Shauna Spicker to the Board of Education award for the 2021 Building and Site Capital Project, Clark Construction, for guaranteed maximum pricing for bid package number 6, amendment G, in the amount of $388,617.90 as presented. Plant Moran Crescent and Clark Construction have provided recommendation letters for board review. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support. Moved and supported. Any discussion, questions?
I do have some questions. As it was presented, I needed some perspective on that dollar amount, that $388,000. What I was wondering was what was initially allocated and how far over are we?
So initially, how the bond application was just under $300,000. The actual trade cost for the actual work, not Clark's construction piece, came in at $358,000. That is actually substantially below what estimates we had going into bid day, for over $500,000. That coupled with the bus garage transportation and the Herbison Woods bids actually came under by $160,000. Therefore, the team as a whole felt comfortable moving forward with being $60,000 over the initial bond application amount. So the amounts that you saw in the bond application were from 2018, when we put those numbers
so
in there.
that's what I was trying to figure out, and,
Yep.
and I appreciate that you made the reference to the others coming in under. Did they come under what we originally thought, or bid day?
We,
under?
they came under bid day, but we did a lot of work as a team to get that down to where it should have been, based on all the escalation that was going on.
So
in the
it's
market.
still over?
No, we're still under. We're
Okay.
still under, yes.
Okay.
Under what was in a PQF, yes, we're still under.
Okay, so we haven't hit contingency, we haven't touched anything yet?
No.
Great news. That's awesome. Thank you.
It's
A lot of people
it's a
working
work
around
of
the
the team.
table to make that happen.
I want to say, between Clark, Tressa, and our admin team, that has been forefront of all of our meetings, is making sure that we're very cognizant of the budget as we go through each of these bids, because we don't want to get to the end
Right.
and say we have to severely shortchange a building because we've just let the overruns or the underruns happen as they may. So it's been a constant conversation. We've making sure that we're very conscious of, budgets and how things are trending.
Very much looking forward to the very end versus just in the future.
Well, that's great news then. I appreciate that.
Yeah, we're
For now.
markets are trending in the right direction right now for us.
Well, we want to commend and thank all of you for your
Yeah.
work together too, and keeping this streamlined and working so closely together, keeping everybody informed. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Anything else from you? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we will move on. It is the recommendation from Superintendent Dr. Shauna Spicker that the DeWitt Public Schools Board of Education approve the resolution to accept the proposed Jewel settlement as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support. Moved and supported. Shauna, do you want to give a quick update on what this entails?
So as you know, I think it was a year ago, last board, like February, that we signed a resolution to join in on this lawsuit. This is only with Jewel, so the lawsuit is still ongoing with other companies. But I recommend that we take the settlement because the Jewel may go into bankruptcy and this is protected funds. We will probably only see about 35% of what our piece is because of, attorney fees and different fees that are associated with it. I think we'll end up ultimately getting around $35,000 around there from the lawsuit. So we, how we'll spend that isn't all the way determined yet, but it's not attached to just vaping. So while we will want to use some funds in that as far as detectors and prevention, also substance abuse overall and helping with that, especially preventative measures, but also teen peer programs is another place where I'm wanting to see to allocate some of those funds.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to the DeWitt Middle School Curriculum Guide approval is recommendation by Superintendent Dr. Shauna Spicker. The Board of Education approve the 2023-24 DeWitt Middle School Curriculum Guide as presented. Do we have a motion? Support. Okay, moved and supported. I know we have Dr. Cravata here with us as well for any questions anybody may have. Questions, comments, concerns?
So you put together a cover page for you that kind of outline the major changes in the guide. Any questions, or if you want to comment on that?
No, the only thing I would comment on is the, typically we've done where you can see the previous year and there's a lot of crossouts and things, but there was going to be a lot of crossouts only because we moved some things around and reorganized a lot of things, so I felt like it would be a lot better to give you a clean copy. The biggest changes are on that cover page that we put in there. We are streamlining some of our elective classes into some areas that we know we want to continue to boost up and work towards filling those elective classes. Some of the STEM areas that go along with some of the things in our strategic plan. And also, we do know that we have a little bit of an increase in students next year at the middle school because of when we graduate from 8th grade and we bring in from 6th grade. So to maximize the work that our teachers are doing in teaching those 6th or 8th grade core classes, that helps, we had to kind of rearrange some of the electives for that. So.
Any further discussion from anybody? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, Memorial Stadium dedications. Primary purpose for those here today and watching at home of Memorial Stadium dedications is to recognize deceased persons who have made a significant contribution to DeWitt Public Schools and/or persons whose untimely death has had a significant and profound impact on the current student body of DeWitt Public Schools. It is a recommendation that the Board of Education recommend the following names to be added to the Memorial Stadium plaque: Craig Kaler, Marcus Frey, and Ray Unker. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? I'll just say all three of these gentlemen very, very well deserving. Many of you know Craig served with us for many years. Close friend to many of us. Marcus Frey, gym teacher and coach here at the district, and Ray Unger, a teacher who was responsible for that awesome flaming fire-breathing panther out there. So all have just made significant contributions to this district and the community, and all very well deserving of this honor. That being said, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we will move to public communications for items not found on the agenda. Anybody? Great, we will close public comment and move on to the superintendent report.
So it has been a busy month since our last meeting. I was fortunate enough to present in San Antonio at the National Superintendent's Conference. So I was a panelist in social media and the healthy balance and how we pretty much promote our district and share our happenings. I also was part of a roundtable discussion on leading while female, and excited to accept an invite to April is Women in Leadership Conference, where there'll be 200 female leaders, and doing that session for those 200 attendees. So I'm excited about that. We sent out a legislator invite for March's Reading Month, and so between Friday and today, we had 3 different of our elected officials partake in that. So our Mayor, Sue Lemming, came in on Friday, and again, they met with central office staff in the morning so we could kind of introduce our district. We gave them some statistics on our district. We talked about how legislation affects teaching and learning, and if they wanted to have any experts in the field, that we would be happy to be, phone a friend for them. And then they went on to the buildings to either talk with students, meet with student leaders, and read to the elementary students. So it's pretty cool. And then we also had Representative Emily Devendorf, who participated on Friday as well. And then today, Senator Sam Singh came in and participated, and then he also read at Shavy Elementary this morning. I just want to highlight a few points of pride. So our very own Jason Morden has his MSBO Pupil Accounting Certificate. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And then Mike Fry is the athletic Region 7 Athletic Director of the Year. So very cool about that. We had a couple of different events with CC RESA. So we had the community conversation to prioritize spending for mental health and school safety. And so we were able to kind of run through a little bit of information on mental health and different strategies and supports that the county provides, as well as we went through a discussion protocol to talk about how the community would like to see those, or what would they like to see funded. So what came out of that conversation was community and parent education, extra staffing, and then de-escalation spaces for students. Also noted were tools to be able to implement our safety protocols, staff and peer training. And then the other event that we participated in is the DeWitt Community Partnership partnered with the St. John's Coalition and the Stand for Michigan State. So we were able to participate in that day, and we had a lot of different activities on not only supporting students and the Michigan State community, but having some conversation and dialogue around what happened, and also different supportive measures that could be put in place. So strategic plan, as far as communication engagement is concerned, we had the community conversation, the Stand with Michigan event. There also is an article about the legislators being invited and the more to your door. So I have a couple of extra copies if you guys haven't received that yet. Academic programs, Mr. Dodson had talked at our curriculum committee meeting about innovative programming, which that's kind of in the works to take a look at what that might look like. And then for safety and operations, we currently have safety assessments that are going on. So part of the school grants that were done around safety, there was one for assessments, and that included interviews, really looking at our EOP, all of our safety documents, all the different professional learning that we're doing, and then building walkthroughs are scheduled for this week to actually, they'll walk through each of the buildings, and then we'll get a report back on what we can do. So the good news is when we had our interview, he did say that our EOP is one of the best that he has seen, so that was promising, and he was pretty impressed with the training that we've been implementing and doing. Another grant was on the critical response mapping, so we have that out, and that's being worked on as well. So I talked a little bit about that, but that's for first responders as well as 911 to have access to our maps and being able to kind of communicate. I'm also working on, along with CC RESA and all of the districts for Clinton County Police Department as well as 911, having access to our video live feed in the event of an emergency. So those are all in the works. And that's all I have for this month.
Well, thank you very much. Any questions for Dr. Smith?
No, but I'll just comment, if he said that was one of the best we've seen, if SEC is doing it and they do the majority of schools in the state, so that's a high compliment.
Oh, that's not, I didn't realize they were doing the majority, but yes, everyone in Clinton County is using SEC.
They do the majority of them in the state, so that's.
David and Rob were there, they heard it, so.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
I would just comment the work you've done, that we talk a lot about social media and kind of telling our story, and you can see it. I mean, there's very, very much, very visible. To see the updates for, I think it was the middle school half day, the basketball game.
Oh, yeah.
It was almost like a live Instagram feed of what was going on that day. So it was great to see. It's good to see the pictures and the little stories. So
and I have to say,
great work.
so, you know, the strategic plan talked about a communications person, and so one of the things we've done is we have building reps, and so Sarah is our building rep for Scott School, and they're just killing it. They're doing a fantastic job. So it's, you know, a lot of the teacher leaders who have, they're kind of sharing the stories of their buildings, and they are doing a phenomenal job.
Good job.
Anything else from anybody? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay.